All right. Seeing that I go live, seeing that we're here, and we are live. Hi, Sean. Welcome. We do have Cynthia on here, but she's not on camera. And if you are watching us on IOTS, you are welcome to come and join us for this conversation about words of wisdom with my amazing co-host, Nancy, today. And we were just talking a little bit before that starts. And so we usually have a few people, but you're welcome to pop on or you're welcome to watch it from here. So welcome, Nancy. Thank you for agreeing to join us and to be. So if you're watching this on recording or you're watching it for the first time, this was actually born of a couple conversations, one with Sandra Pelly, and another one in our Optimize class. We had a big conversation one day about words and our agreements around words and what is happening. And we were talking about the fact that in this age of Aquarius, we have words and understandings with each other that we don't necessarily know what they were. So last month, this is our third. Last month, we ended up talking about the word love and the word, you're all welcome to have your cameras on if you want to talk. You don't have to listen to us on Zoom. And the word was love. What was the other word?
You said it was God.
Oh, God. We started with God, agreements around different words. And one of the things that came out of that was the fact that words are spells. And we are weaving spells when we're using words. So, Nancy, why don't you tell us about yourself and maybe any insights? I happened to watch a program you had last night with Jeanette Byro, and I wrote down all kinds of words that appeared during that in case, though you and I never seem to be caught for words or discussions. So that's not.
I love words.
Yeah.
I love words. I'm an internationally best-selling author who is currently writing her memoir. I'm a psychic medium as well as a breakthrough coach, and I do breakthrough coaching. That's one word that we could discuss.
Coaching. That's a good one too. Yeah.
Coaching. There's such a different vibe between the two. Yes, coach. And then there's coaching, which is softer. We add an ing and it changes.
Oh, it does.
Words are so incredibly powerful. I'm just enamored with them. And I like listening more than I used to. Yeah, more than I used to. Not that I didn't enjoy listening, but I wasn't as well versed in it. If Nancy would only pay attention in class.
That word alone, attention. What's that really mean?
Oh.
We can hear you, Cynthia. We can't see you. You're in here twice. So, hey, it's the wonders of Zoom, It just is. It's the wonders of Zoom.
Technology. Word that we spoke of last night that I found wonderful is the word appease. And that came from the discussion of fight, flight, freeze, and appease.
Appease.
I was just blown away when that one came into my reality because it was like my mind opened up like a book and I saw me and the behavior of appeasing another, keeping the peace, being the good daughter, being the good wife. It was that appeasement. It was it reminds me of when we would, the Rackstreet commercials were flour on the face, so that when the husband came home, it looked like we'd been baking cakes all day.
Yeah, nobody's going to buy that for me, no matter how many agreements I have around that word appease. That's an interesting word. We started this because we have different agreements about what things mean. Now, as soon as you said appease, to me, appease has a energy around it of me not being authentic. There's another word. That if I'm appeasing someone, it's because now this is my agreement, they're somehow out of control. And I have to appease them to get them into where I am comfortable and with control. How are you using that?
When I think of appeasing, for me, the immediate remembering that came for me was how I would be appeasing in my relationships, especially my previous marital relationships. And I would do what was ever necessary to keep the peace.
Ah,
Because it wasn't fighting, it wasn't flighting, and it wasn't freezing. It was, yes, dear, let me get
yes.
that for
So yours was more earlier in the relationship, appeasing. For me, appeasing was always after something was out of control. So Sean and Cynthia, anytime, or Sue, if you want to come on camera, or what, anybody, feel free to just talk off camera too. What about appeasing? That's just an interesting word. There's some real charge around that for me.
you. Do.
Me as well. When Nancy was talking about the word, it actually didn't really resonate anymore with me until you started talking about it. It's like, do I really understand that word? And I'm a person of words too. And but then when you started to talking about it and everything, but I guess I don't have that energy as much anymore to appease, you know. I mean, I like to appease people, but I don't have the energy of doing it anymore. I
So
don't
do,
do it anymore.
so your agreement around it was kind of like mine, as I was giving something away to make something be okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, there was definitely an out of control aspect when I'm appeasing someone. How about Cynthia or Sue? Because that right away goes into authentic for me too. So there, you
I
know,
get this really interesting image with appease is backpedaling.
ah, what does that mean to you?
That you're not going forward in the relationship, you're going backward. That it's not an authentic place. You're trying to keep the waters calm and avoid all kinds, any kind of conflict or disagreement. So you have to backpedal. It's almost backpedaling for your own, self-esteem.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's an interesting tie
Yep.
into it. Yeah, about
I
yourself.
feel that. I feel that.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
for me, it's kind of like appeasing. Is not something that I think maybe like you said, Sean, I've grown out of it. That
Hmm.
maybe I did it more years ago, but it's kind of like screw you, get out of my face or go away. It's like no, thank you.
Yes.
And
Well,
appeasing, there have been times in my life where appeasing has been dangerous.
Yes.
I've actually gone against my better judgment
mhm.
about doing something, and believe me, the need to go at the end, told you I was right, has sometimes been outweighed, because that becomes an action again around the word appeasement. Oh yeah, I gave in, and you know that
Selling out your principles. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes it's literally been dangerous, um, for me to have appeased, like appeasement of a child. Oh, I just don't feel like fighting with them, and then something unfolds, and they almost really get hurt.
When you say sure, go ahead, do it your way,
Hmm.
I
How
and
do
about
then
you?
that a lot. Well,
Go ahead, Cynthia, say that
I was
again.
just gonna say, I do that a lot, or did that a lot when I didn't want conflict with people. You know,
Mhm.
I would just be like, whatever you want, you know. And I think when I was younger, if I would be like a people pleaser or stuff, I think it was more because I didn't want people to abandon me. If I didn't do what they wanted, they would abandon me, you know? So I was afraid of that.
So
But
that was an
now,
agreement you had around the word appease. Yeah.
yeah. And plus I'm a woman and I feel like women, you know, were taught to do that because I'm 63 and I feel like in my age group, that was like almost expected of us when we were, you know, younger. And even now, it's like expected of me and my family system that I'm supposed to sacrifice myself for my kids and, you know, just anybody. Um,
Right.
but
Because
now I'm older and, you know, honestly, I don't know if it's my hormone, my lack of hormones now after my hysterectomy or what, but I am like on the warpath now. It's like I am just not about to be appeasing anybody. It's like I am just really
well,
not the same person I was back in October.
and the other agreement that I have around the word appease too is I don't want to be appeased sometimes. And I'm going to add a qualifier in there. Again, this is what this is about. I don't want you to give in because that's what you think I want. Just like the
Yeah.
women's thing of if I didn't appease you in a certain way, I wasn't strong or assertive. I was a bitch. You know, a different conversation with appeasement. How I said it was another agreement people have around the word appeasement. And in the converse of that, I don't want you to appease me. You know, I know you all have had this conversation with a partner or a friend. Where do you want to go to lunch? I don't know. Where do you want to go to lunch? I don't know. Where do you want to go to lunch? I don't know. Where do you want to go to lunch? In this appeasement conversation, sometimes I do know where I want to go to lunch. So it's an interesting word because it does, for me, go back to authentic. How do I know when appeasement is something that I'm doing to just get along because it's easier for me, or am I being I being authentic about that? So that's another word that we talk about with our agreements for me.
And the appeasement is a way to avoid the authenticity, the way to avoid confrontation, the way to avoid what we really feel. And sometimes we're burying our feelings and our emotions in appeasement.
Mm-hmm. Especially in groups. Yeah.
There's a symbol of the pelican that she will break the skin of her own breast in order to feed her babies. And it's kind of like, that goes a little too far, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of like, no, I don't have to, sacrifice who I am in order to appease or nurture or do something for someone else.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, things are supposed to be partnerships.
And how do we figure out the difference between, because part of the reason we talk about words is in a group, sometimes I appease in a group because I don't care or I don't want to cause a wave. I want a solution. And so there are times for me that appeasement is a tool. Like, look, if we just go here, I know down the road there's something else. Have you ever met one of those people who has so many opinions that, it's like, can you be flexible enough? There is something that appeasement shows a level of flexibility too. When I appease someone, it's like, because I really don't care that much. So if that's important to you, let's go for it, it's probably not my number one. So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? That's what we're trying to figure out, what our agreements are, how we learn to do this in bigger groups.
It's when we say, okay, Karen, you can bake the cake every week for an entire year. Poor Karen.
Yeah, that poor name. That name is taking a beating now, isn't it? If your name is Karen, I have real compassion for you right now, you know.
I was a Nancy. Don't be such a Nancy. From
Right.
that was decades. That was decades.
My
Yeah,
son has used that. It's negative Nancy. That's what he always said. Mom, don't be negative Nancy.
and,
I don't think I'm trying to be negative Nancy. I'm trying to get you to behave yourself.
and Nancy, you are double done. You know, double trounced,
Yes, right.
Nancy Nance.
Yeah.
She's such a Nancy Nancy girl.
So yeah. So I mean, right. Like I said, Karen, now you're being a Karen. I'm sorry, Karens, you know.
Mhm.
One woman in a park somewhere decided to dig in, and that became a whole like negative Nancy, or don't be a Nancy was also to me a weakness, right?
It's what boys were called in sports.
Nancy boys.
Ah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, for gay boys.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
that
yeah.
too.
It's a British term, the Nancy boy.
Mhm.
So anyways, let's go back to appeasement. But so when is appeasement? I mean, what agreements are around that word, and with authentic and appeasement? And, you know, those are hard words to kind of come to grips with.
Well, can I share a story that I'm going through right now?
Sure.
Which you're bringing this up, and it's I was actually just reading today about givers and takers, and then they have another word that they use to describe matchers. And so a giver is somebody who is selfless and gives, with the idea that, they ask themselves, how can I add value to a person, to their life? What can I contribute? They do things selflessly. They're not looking for they don't have any strings attached. Then there's a taker who is focused on their own interests ahead of others' needs. They try to gain as much as possible from their interactions, and they contribute as little as they can in return. And then there's a matcher who believes in the idea, I'll take from you, you give to me, and I'll give to you, and it's I'll give to you, and then I'll you it's everything has to be reciprocated. So I
So
was
kind of
reading about
scorekeeper.
that, trying to understand, like, I know I'm a giver, and but I'm having the thing that I'm seeing about myself. So my daughter's having a shower, and a wedding shower in May, and I recognize that her future mother-in-law is a very controlling person, and needs to have everything her way. And so I just threw up my hands, and I was like, I'm stepping back. You handle the shower, and I will bring the cake, supply the cake and the pastries, and I don't want to be involved in any other decisions about it. But it's my daughter. So this is like, I'm so anyway, I think that that's like the appeaser person in me. I don't want any conflicts. I don't like people when I feel like they're trying to control and take charge, when I feel like they shouldn't be. Like, it's a boundary thing for me. So anyway, I just step back, and that's the part of me that doesn't want conflict with people.
Well, that also goes to the idea of what's your, don't pick your battle. What battle are you going to fight? Are you
Right.
going to fight this, the other woman? Is it worth it? Or, because that's kind of a bully. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is easier to appease and say, I'm just not up for conflict. Have your own party later and you plan what you want.
Yeah.
No, so
Until
that's
she's had her turn.
Yeah.
yeah.
True.
So that's another kind of appeasement. So it's really interesting as we kind of like pull the word apart. There are times we choose appeasement. you know?
I
And
guess we do. Yeah.
and understanding what our agreement about that is, for me, goes back to the word authentic. When is it about me? When is it me avoiding? I mean, what do you think about that piece? Like, Nancy, what do you think? Because you talked about it's related to authenticity. There's another
But
word.
when we're appeasing, it's like sticking a pacifier in a child's mouth. We're going to give them something, and it's going to change their behavior. So we are trying to control them,
Oh,
right? So it's that behavior that we are doing something with an expectation that another person is going to behave. So it's, as much as we may feel like we're giving up our control, we are trying to control another. It's passive aggressive.
yeah.
Right, because it's a boundary, especially when other people are involved. Like in your case, who wants to catch their child in the middle of a power struggle? And again, boundaries, authenticities, all of those things are all pieces of why I either appease or I use appeasement to keep things settled. And I think that's why I have a background belief in, ooh, I don't want it to blow up. Ooh, I don't want it to get ugly. I don't like scenes, period. I do not like scenes. I'll be the first one who will stand up and go, yeah, can we not do that? I'm getting uncomfortable. Like, to say that. And again, that's a kind of appeasement too. Let me say something to see if I can de-escalate
Diffuse.
this.
Diffuse. Yeah.
But
Well,
my
and
thing with
it's,
that though,
Go ahead. One of you.
my thing with it though, when it's that way and you feel that way, I can feel that same way though, Kitty, because but it's just the way, it's just the energy that's there, that you go in and want to appease the situation, because I get that way. It's almost like I get overwhelmed, and it's just like I try to softly go in to, appease the situation.
Mhm.
I read once, and I follow this woman that I really love. She's a psychologist, and she talked about people pleasing and appeasement, and said that when you're a people pleaser, what you're really trying to do is control other people's perceptions of you. And I thought that was really interesting. So of course I had to delve into myself and ask myself, is that really true about me, and why I would be a people pleaser? Because I'm really trying to control other people's perceptions of me. And I kind of came to the conclusion that, it was a lot of the way I was raised, but it's also part of who I really am, like to be a helper and a, caretaker.
So
So
there's a real authentic piece there for you.
there's an authentic piece, but not always.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
most of the time.
Well, I heard it.
we change every day, and that's important to recognize that we change every day. Not just our skin and our physical body, but we change our perspectives, we change our understandings, we change our agreements, all of those things, right? So it depends. And I mean, then you take on the next layer of all the astrology, and the planets are constantly changing. So
Yeah, that
it's
energy
okay.
change. Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, part of the reason we're here to talk about words is I don't always know why you're appeasing somebody. I can form all kinds of opinions about appeasement. And then when I look at my own use of appeasement, sometimes it's very authentic. I don't want to fight,
Mm.
or I appease because I don't want to catch someone else in the middle. And so I, put a cork on it. And for me, that agreement is authentically what is my intention behind this? Again, that idea that I love this, that words are spells. What's my intention of the spell as I'm talking about that appeasement and that authenticity of me. Nancy had something last night. Would you share what you said about the word wait? Because for me, that's one of the ways I can look at authenticity and and so go ahead. I thought this was brilliant.
Before we go into a new word, I also want to add in that we also need to look at appeasement in our family of origin. How did we see our parents deal with appeasement?
Mhm.
So now go ahead, Nance. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, it's about appeasement because is appeasement consensus? Is appeasement voting? Is appeasement coming to a conclusion? Like, so anyway, I thought this was a brilliant kind of pause for me to look at authenticity.
So the acronym for the word wait is why am I talking?
I just thought that was sometimes for me to wait in a situation where do I appease? Do I offer my opinion? What do I do? I love that wait. Why am I talking? Do I really know at this moment? I'm going to wait and see what happens.
Mm.
What is that? Isn't that an interesting way to look at the word wait? So everybody's waiting.
We're soaking it in,
Yeah. Yeah.
waiting on us.
Yeah. For me, that's a great word for looking at my authenticity. Am I, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'm sitting there and inside it's going like this. I'm running through all of these things in my head. And that could even be true for my internal conversation. Why am I talking right now? What am
Oh, and sometimes shutting up the internal conversation is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it is. That internal conversation that, is 5 steps ahead of where you're just sitting there. You haven't even finished with your feelings. So, and that's a way I appease myself. Maybe I can wait. And there's nothing, self-appeasement is a good thing sometimes. That's me taking care of myself, keeping myself out of this conflict. This is a great conversation for the energy, for this Aries energy we're going into about going inward for this next, especially up until about the solar eclipse. What are the tools we use? And appeasement is one of them for me. Okay, I'll do this and then I'll see. But I loved wait last night. You guys have anything to offer? You don't have to wait right now because you're supposed to be talking. So
I learned it with my end of life doula training.
Oh, doula.
So that's where it was very important when we have the conversations about transitioning to the next phase of death.
Yeah.
So because there is a lot of emotion, a lot of energy in that experience with families.
Are you a doula, death doula?
I'm finishing up my certification as an
Oh,
end-of-life
how
doula.
wonderful.
Yeah,
I was
my
I
second
was a
year.
I'm a former hospice nurse.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
can
no, I'm
really
on my
appreciate
second year of university. So,
Oh, oh,
yeah.
great, great.
yeah, I just thought that to me was such a tool. Why am I talking? And that can even be in my head. Why am I talking right now? As we looked at flight, fight, do it again. Fight, fight.
My goodness, fight, flight, freeze, and appease.
Mhm.
As one of those. And again, why am I talking? Sometimes in that appease, I'm running through that. Am I controlling? Am I giving? Am I being really who I am in this moment? And also being kind. There's another word, kind to myself, that sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. I have no freaking clue what the intention is. None, zero. I have my own language going on in my head as to what authentically, I don't know about you, but I want to be a good girl. There can be
Yes,
another whole discussion.
yes, yes, yes. Yep.
What does the word good mean?
Mm-hmm.
Appeasing.
Good at appeasing.
Be good at appeasing. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it, am I
Mhm.
being good because nobody's getting mad and we're,
Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
I remember working with my students in first grade
Mhm.
about consensus. Consensus isn't a vote. Consensus isn't, consensus is I can live with the outcome. And you would get the kid who's like, no, I can't live with that outcome. This was about choosing a name for their table or whatever. And it was an exercise. And it would be interesting to watch the children that appease or authentically are holding on to, once in a great while, the teacher would have to go over and say, I'm sorry, Shazam is not going to be the word. Nobody else can live with it. It's got to go off the list. Well, I can't live with any other words. Well, no, that's different. That's different than working on consensus, and so yeah, I mean, that whole idea of how am I good? How do I behave? What is my intention? You know, I mean, part of the reason to have this conversation about words is, can I be good so that we all can get along and sing, kumbaya? And is that really my intention? You
That would
know,
be so boring.
I agree.
you know, uh, it could be boring. Yes, yes, it could be boring.
Eventually,
You know,
eventually.
um, I don't know. We've never managed to do it. Let's see if that boredom works for my book. you know, let's see if we can, if we can kind of move, you know, and appeasement is a tool of for me of being in my head good. So what do you ladies think? What about being good? What about appeasement to be good? Is that authentic? I mean, I don't know
I
where the
think,
line is personally.
like in my life, I've noticed, like when I look back, I was like a yes person, I would always be like, whatever you want, and just agreeing with everybody because I look back now and I realize I didn't want to cause waves. I didn't want to hurt other people's feelings by expressing how I really felt about things, stuff like that. So I was like a big time people pleaser. And now, I'm like changing a lot and it's like I feel like other people have a right, they have, they can express how they feel, why can't I? And so I'm like becoming more and more authentic and getting away from, the people pleasing and stuff like that. But I'm noticing that I'm having a lot of conflict in my relationships now.
Well, you
You
change the
know,
rules.
yeah, because they don't like the fact that I'm finding my voice and I'm standing up for myself and saying how I think about things and stuff like that. And I'm like making waves now. And it's very interesting when I really look at that, but it's not stopping.
Well, it's the acceptance. I think a lot of it is acceptance. We want to be accepted. And when we look outside of ourselves for acceptance, changes the possibility more. When we look inside of ourselves for acceptance, there's only one person there. So it's challenging.
Well, isn't that part of that authentic then? Acceptance for me is related to that word authentic, which by the way is related to this word. um, you know, yeah, I mean, when to be accepted. Hi, Marcia. We're talking
Hi,
about the word
Sean.
appease, authentic, and being good.
I was listening to it on the way home.
Oh, okay. And for me, that is authentic, And again, if I'm appeasing, are people accepting me as me? I'm serious. I don't know sometimes. Like, I want to be good. I want to be friendly. I want to be accepted. I want to be liked. And so sometimes I appease, and that line of still being authentically who I am, considering inside, I'm not sure who I am in some of that. Does that make sense to people?
Yes, it does.
You know, so that's what cracks me up when people think they know what I'm talking about. I don't even know what I'm talking about sometimes, you know. That's so you know, that whole idea of words are spells. Well, if you can hear what's going on in my head, I'm casting all kinds of spells. Be gone, you know. Be gone, anger. Be gone, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well,
guys, go ahead.
with the appeasement, let's go back to dating. You know, young man comes along and you're dating, and he asks you if you want to go to the hockey game. Sure. And you keep on doing that. And then you get married and you realize that you're doing a whole bunch of things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I hate hockey. Yeah.
He thought you. I hate hockey too. I don't hate hockey.
No,
I'm
but I
still
mean, if
trying
I
to
had been
understand
going,
the
yeah,
word.
yeah.
I fall asleep at the games. I'm not allowed to go anymore. And there's no pink line. There's a blue line, no pink line. Just saying.
Well, again, you appease because this was something they did. You were developing a relationship, and it is hard to turn after you've been going to 90 hockey games to go, you know, I really don't like hockey.
Really not my fave.
It's really not my favorite thing, you know. And again, was I being authentic then? That's a really big line with appeasement. When do I cross into something that isn't me? You know, it's a daily challenge to clarify that. What is me? What is appeasement? What is my boundary here? Marcia, got any thoughts since you were listening to us coming?
Yeah, I think for me, like I used to appease people a lot. I don't as much anymore, but I know when people do it to me because they do it in a manner that's condescending or to try to make me small, and I'm just like, no, no, no. We're gonna change this around. But I think some people do it as like and almost like it is an intimidation factor, like, oh, okay, fine. No, 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 it's fine. Don't do that to me. Because that's a little bit condescending as well. You think you're making me happy, but you're really just making me more angry. So yeah, the appeasing people, it's a fine line. And I think you learn how to dance on that line with your friends that you're the closest to because you've got more of that push pull that you guys were talking about. That I think Cynthia brought it up. The person who's kind of like not the, I don't remember what you called it now, like the manager. Like if you do this, I'll do this. If you do this, so like with your closest friends, I think that's kind of what you do when you're doing something to appease your close friends. It's more of a give and take.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, it's an interesting word. It kind of expands to all to a lot of behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of behaviors. And for me, you know, I don't know why people sometimes seem condescending and appease me. You know, maybe they're reading a manual somewhere that says, make your employee happy. And it's like, well, you know what? That's not making me happy because I feel like you're not listening. You know, I don't think I want people to appease me, but then again, I don't like people who are always have an opinion about everything. Like,
Is
really?
appeasement different than compromise?
I don't know. That's a good question. Consensus, compromise, all of those.
I think it would depend on the situation being appease versus compromise. I think that's a
Okay.
very fine line as well.
Yeah.
Appease is more of a giving in, and compromise is where you have a negotiation and you work out what's going forward.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, there's more of a win.
Looking
Win,
for the win-win,
win.
correct, yeah.
Yeah. Two-sided win.
There's kind of a relationship in the word compromise. And so
Mhm.
maybe using the word compromise more than appease where's my compromise here instead of me saying I'm going to appease them? Because this came out of fight, flight, freeze, or appease.
Mhm.
It's one of those when we're
Yes.
backed into a corner behaviors that we come up with. So
And it could be it's an appease
Sure.
when you can't come to a good compromise.
yeah, you know,
I just always,
go ahead.
I just want to always involve my heart in my, you know, choices now, because I feel like when I was appeasing people, you know, in the past, it wasn't about my heart. It was about, you know, like I said, trying to control their perception of me and wanting to be liked and not being abandoned and all that kind of stuff. But I think, you know, with me now, I want to make sure that my heart's involved and that I'm doing something from my heart and not for any other reason. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life.
So that goes back to the authentic intention of something.
I guess so. Yeah.
That word seems to come back up a lot.
Emotional intelligence, heart set, mindset, all of those more evolved ways of being. Now I'm so cautious with my words.
We're just learning about our words, that's all. And how many times have we jumped to that we think we know somebody knows why they're doing it, and that's what this is about, to learn in groups. We don't know what their agreement around that word is. If somebody says, I'm going to appease you, Kitty, I'm going to go like this.
No, you're not.
You know, and they may be actually coming from a good heart space to say, I'm just going to appease that, because it's really not a big deal to them. But now I'm in a fight or flight kind of energy. So I was just fascinated when that became that fourth choice. Like, oh, appease. Is that something? You know, that's why we talk about agreements about words. You know, and then am I looking at, well, they're not being authentic. Well, who am I to tell you what's authentic or not?
Well, and if you look at it in a traumatic situation, because that's what you were saying, depending upon the event, if you are kidnapped and fighting isn't the best option, right?
No.
Fight. So maybe appease
Mhm.
that situation would be a better choice.
Yeah. Fighting for your survival.
Mhm.
Or the 2-year-old that's on the floor in the middle of Walmart and you can't pick them up and carry them out the door.
Yeah, they got too darn big.
Yeah.
That's where you just grab them by the hair and drag.
1 foot.
Not really.
I was
Take
thinking
an
sit
inch
on
child.
him.
And so you do step into an appeasement. What's the issue here? You know, now, not do I think if they're throwing a fit because they want the new doll, that going to get them the doll is a good idea? No. But I might appease them so I can get them in the cart and get them out the door. Okay, we'll go look at it. No, we're not. I mean, I don't know. That's another time, you know.
Yeah.
Once again, it's about picking your battle.
Very
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
Well, there does seem to be people that have lots of battles, though.
The drama ones. Give me more drama. Give me more drama. Not enough drama. Let's add some more drama.
Well, and
Makes
that's
them
a
feel
good.
needed.
Go ahead, Marsha. I'm sorry.
I said it makes them feel needed,
Mm.
having a lot of drama.
Mm-hmm.
It's very familiar sometimes. I don't know what they.
Mhm.
It's very. It's. I think it was it Nancy who said, whoever said, it's kind of what happened as you grew up. What did you learn?
Yep.
Is this a
Tyler's
tool
right.
you learned?
Mhm.
And
There's a lot in our world right now that is there's different characters in life, and there are many characters who are standing up for what's right and creating conflict in the world. Is that drama? Or is that advocacy?
Drama is usually, like Marcia said, a bid for attention, trying to be more important. Advocacy, yeah, that's where people might stir something up in the world. Drama is usually something that's not really quite necessary.
Depending upon what side of the fence you're looking at it from, right?
Right. Again, what's your agreement around the word drama? Because some
Yeah.
people think that drama is to get their point across. They feel like they're standing in their
Yeah.
power, they're using their voice. And I really don't know why perhaps that's what they feel, because they felt like they never have been heard. You know?
I was just going to say not feeling heard. That's exactly what I heard as well.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
again, I'm not particularly a fan of sometimes, but then again, that's my assessment of a situation. It's drama to them. Maybe it is in their mind a life or death situation. You
Maybe
know?
part of their survival.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Again, goes back to a learned behavior growing up from the parents.
Right. Or been, abuse. I have some friends who were in some abusive relationships, and they would avoid anything, you know. But there are people that are always very clear what they want, and if you don't do it, they leave because they feel threatened. So, I mean, that's why we do this conversation again. Why? I don't really know what people's agreements are. So let's talk about what can be different agreements. I know I'm going to look at appeasement a little bit differently after this. Are they
Yes.
appeasing me? Or are they really with some intention trying to do something? Or the ones who refuse to find a compromise or a consensus? Maybe they do that because they don't have a voice somewhere else, you know? And if it's not that important to me, are I call them hackles up, because they've hit some nerve for me. So, it's appease is a really interesting word. When you said that last night, I'm like, wow, there are different ways about compromise and appeasement that go back to the intention behind it. And if it's the intention behind it, do I really know what people's intentions behind things are? That's kind of, you know, when I assume, there goes that word.
That one.
Yeah. When I
One,
assume I know why they're doing it, why they're appeasing me.
absolutely. Yep. Well, and the more that we take the opportunity to choose to slowly enter a room, slowly enter a situation, and observe, the more that we can see. God gave us 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth for a reason.
Only one of these, but I really did like, why am I talking?
I like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why am I talking right now? When I don't know, why am I talking? Unless I have a question, Now,
I just recently had something come across my, mind that, um, it was, you don't always have to say everything that you're thinking.
Mm.
I just thought that was really interesting because there's been situations I've been in where I just want to say exactly what I think and how I feel. And, I, I've gotten myself into trouble a few times because I just have. And I never thought about the fact that I don't really have to say everything that I think or feel to anybody. So that was just an interesting revelation to me.
Is it necessary? Is it necessary?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it fine?
Yeah.
Is it going forward in the direction of what I want in my life? If I want more peace,
Yeah.
the universe is going to send me a little bit more conflict to remind me of what peace is like. They're really, I mean, that's just what happens, because there's always opposition in life. If there were no obstacles, if there was no opposition, if there was no challenges, we'd all be just
Boring.
Yeah.
Boring.
yeah. Yeah. So
I
it's
can
really,
always hear.
it's really easy to see that when you're not in it though, right? It's like that mosquito in the room, you know.
Yeah. David's grandmother, um, bless her soul, was just this very sweet woman. Now, you're talking about an agreement of a word. She'd always say, well, if we're all like it would be queer. And of course, she was using queer in the, very old fashioned way of
Mhm.
doing it. But she was right. If we were all like it, just be queer. And, part of, I know this energy we're working on is to go inward and look at, it's not about you're right, I'm wrong. It's about integration. I don't really know why they're doing that. Um, authentically, what do I want to do? And I'm going to be using it a lot. And if I don't know, why am I talking?
True.
What am I doing with this? This it's interesting, the word appease, how it's kind of universal. It's about authenticity, it's about respect, it's also about condensation, it's about being uncompromising. It's all of these words. So
Mm.
It kind of
Well,
comes
some
down
of the-
to, like, what's in it for me? If I say this, what's in it for me?
mhm.
Is what I need to say worth saying? Because what am I actually going to get from it? What's the outcome? Is it going to create more conflict, more issue? So trust me, I've been wrestling with this a lot lately of keeping my mouth shut and thinking of, what's in, if this comment, if I say this, what's really in it for me? It's gonna make me a little happy, but it's just gonna make the other person more mad, which there's no use in that because that's just wasted air and wasted time. So
Mm.
trying to think
Yep.
more of
Yeah.
when I get into those little issues with a certain sibling. I'm choosing words a little bit better.
That's what this is. There's a line between appeasement, so that our dear friend, you do you, you know energy, versus no, this is a boundary. No.
Yeah.
um and again, when I don't know, I'm going to wait.
Yes.
So
We've been watching a lot of the Godfather Italian kind of movies, and it's really funny because there was a character and he was just like this, the Italian, and I'm just like, oh, he's trying to wait.
did you ever see the movie Four Seasons? It was with Alan Alda, Carol Burnett, Rita Moreno. There was a scene where she would always say, I'm Italian. And her husband finally goes, being Italian doesn't mean every thought falls like a gumbo onto your tongue and rolls out of your mouth. That's not a reason. Because she would say and it's like, there's the intent, you know, you know, and it's just so funny because I do know people, you know, like, you know, it's what happens. So we have a few minutes left. Anybody have any thoughts about, something that they've kind of walked away with thinking about this?
Mm.
Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
I'm kind of curious what your definition is of drama, because I was thinking about this lately. Like, I know people who say, "Oh, I can't stand people who, you know, always create drama, and you're such a drama queen," and blah blah blah. And I think about that because I seriously, like, living in this world, I feel like unless you're up on top of a mountain, being a total recluse, I don't know how you can escape, like, having conflict and, things and, like, what is your definition of drama? Like, I feel like life can be dramatic just in itself. Um, with, you know, deaths of people and sickness and just things that happen that, you know, or like, what do you mean by drama? Because I just feel like it's everywhere and I don't know how you're going to escape it. That's how I look at it. I don't know how other people feel. So,
I think sometimes when people say, "Oh, she's so dramatic," I think they they say that about another person because it's easier for them to say, "I don't want to listen to it. I don't have the time to listen to whatever her drama is." I think it becomes more of not wanting to like put your foot in the ring to maybe listen to somebody for 2 minutes. So she's dramatic.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
There is a judgment for me connected to the word drama.
Mm-hmm.
Is because I would say drama is making something bigger than necessary, but that's a judgment. That's an assessment. What do I understand is necessary? You know, there's a lot of drama around that. And so I guess for me, it's a lot of energy that I can't sort out. That's
Yeah.
drama to me. That seems
I
to
like
be
that. I like,
more personal.
yeah. I love what you said, making something bigger than what it really has to be or is or what. I like that. Yep.
And that's an
Mhm.
assessment, though. It's a judgment. Like maybe they have a reason. Go ahead, Nance.
I like what Marcia said about putting your toe into the ring of it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's a really beautiful visual.
Mm-hmm. Because if you put your foot in, that means you have to listen and you have to like care. Let them have a minute to like get out whatever they need to get out. Maybe you don't have the 5 minutes, that's fine. But don't just say that somebody's being dramatic because maybe they're having a real like for them issue / crisis and they just need somebody to listen for 2 to 5 minutes. That's not drama. That's just like that's them silently saying, I need help. I need somebody to listen. You are the person that I know can listen to me, but that person is choosing to not listen, to not be that buffer, that bumper that that person needs at that moment. And then they just, and then it's like, oh, now I feel guilty about it. So I'm just going to call it drama. And then they create their own drama because she's got drama. And no toes are going in any rings at any point.
I think that's really important. Sometimes we don't enter into something because we see it as drama, but it's not for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes back to, like you said, I can put my toe in, but if I don't want to put my foot in, you're gonna have to find somebody to put their foot in, you know. And it's a hard one because there are people that seem to have lots of things swirling around them. And in their doing, you do you, I want to go the other way. Thanks. But that's, I guess that's where the choice comes in, you know,
Mhm.
with that. And, you know, we all have times we want somebody to put their foot in.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sometimes I
we
make
will.
people put their feet in.
So,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
so yeah, it's, you know, it's not easy to navigate being people.
No.
Mm.
No, and all we have is language. Wait till we can all be telepathic and really understand what's going on, you
You know how
know.
many fights are going to start just like out of nowhere? What did you say about me? I heard that.
Though I think once we're telepathic, we really are able to just be what we are versus because most fights start out of, for me, somebody either telling me how to be or me telling them how to be, or taking something completely personal, like the four agreements that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with me. It's just irritating me. And why is it irritating me? I don't know, you know.
Stay in your
I
own
love
lane.
what
Stay in
I,
your own lane. Stay in your own lane. This is my lane. This is my car. This is my vehicle. It's like I was saying, I don't know if it was on Jeanette's but Jeanette on the podcast or before, but I'm like that the saying, we're all in the same boat. If anybody's in my boat,
Yeah.
the hell got in my boat? No one was invited in my boat, right? Same with my vehicle. It's my vehicle. And I think that the more that I honor that in myself, the more that I'm able to honor it within others. But I got to start with me.
Kitty, can you repeat what you said? Because I want to write it down. I loved what you said there. Most of your fights start because
We've got to stay in our own lane. Stay in our own lane, stay in our own vehicle.
Yeah.
And once we manage our own self, our own physical body, our own mental body, our own emotional body, then we're not going to swerve off into other people's lanes so much. We can look over, oh, look, he's picking his nose, right? The nose pickers always, right? I don't know, often. But once we manage our own well-being, we're not as concerned as what Kitty's doing next door. Unless it looks really good,
Yeah, and like I said, and what I said, if I
Mhm.
paraphrase it, it's being recorded so we can look at it again.
Okay.
What irritates when I get angry at people, it's usually
Mhm.
I'm not in my own lane. That's very true. Or they've done something I've taken personally, and again, I've assigned their words, their action,
Mhm.
something that I am not sure is true. And
Okay.
perhaps they think they're appeasing me. Let's go back to that word. And that isn't the reaction I'm having. What they thought was appeasing irritates the heck out of me. And I don't know why it's irritating me. I mean, if I do myself, why does what, Sean does bug me? It's not my
Yeah.
business, not my
Yeah.
circus, not my monkeys.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and when I'm tired, halt, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, I need to wait.
In your lane, in your lane.
I need to wait,
Yep.
fill up whatever energy needs to be taken care of, and then it won't bother me as much. You ever notice that? When you're tired
Yes. Yes. Yes.
or you're hungry,
Mhm.
you're already pissed off because somebody cut you off and you went to use your debit card and it didn't work. And then somebody says, excuse me. No, I'm not going to excuse you. It's like,
Be in the proper pickup lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're picking their nose next to you. Sometimes you go, oh, that's kind of gross. Or sometimes you go, oh, gross. Because of where I am. And yeah. So, well, ladies, thank you.
Yeah.
We've gone a couple
Yeah.
minutes over. I really enjoyed it. We've had quite a few people in and out watching us.
Mhm.
And we welcome anyone to come. It's always the third Monday of the month, and we have different co-hosts who will come with their own ideas. And so thank you all. I really enjoyed it. I really and Marcia, I want to say thank you. She sent me a story last month after we had a conversation. So if a story comes up with the word appease and you see something change, and you let us know. That's what this is about. So take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
Take care. Thank you.
Nancy.
Thank you. It was
Thank
fun.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I gotta stop the live.
There we go.